So, do you all have your big dreams ready? Hey, I thought you would. Now, to give yourself the greatest possible chances of success, you're going to need a magic ingredient. And this ingredient is luck. So, are you ready to get lucky now? I'm really glad you said that. Well, you've made a great start because when these tickets became available, you grabbed the opportunity and you're here. You've put yourself in the game. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to share some of the secrets of lucky people with you so that you can switch on your luck magnet, magnify your intuition, and it might just be a little bit easier than you think. Does that sound okay? Yeah. Now, luck is a subject that has fascinated people for generations, and it fascinates me too. It fascinates me so much that I spend most of my time reading, writing, and talking about luck. And I try and talk to as many people as possible. And quite a common response I get, and it's always with a very serious face. It's, oh yes, I know all about luck. I know the harder I work, the luckier I get. Have you heard that? Yeah, well, you see, there's a lot of truth in that statement, for sure. But it's not the whole truth. Because the truth is that, unfortunately, many people work very hard, and they don't have much to show for their efforts. Whereas the lucky people, and we all know them, they appear to work a lot less hard than we do. They have a lot more fun, and more importantly, they have a lot more success to show for their efforts. So what is their secret? Well, the conclusion that I've come to is that they have learned how to spend more time living in their unconscious mind. And there's a few reasons why this is important. First of all, the unconscious mind is way more powerful, way bigger, and way faster than the conscious mind where we spend most of our time living. And the other thing is that in the unconscious mind lives intuition. And the more you can connect to intuition, the more the magic's going to flow, and the luckier you just might get. Now, we have been shambling around this planet for about 10 million years, although we looked a lot different then. And that sounds like a really long time, but in evolutionary terms, it is just less than a blink of an eye. And we were incredibly fast learners. It only took us 5 million years to learn how to walk on 2 legs most of the time. And because we've got what they call an opposable digit, we can use tools so we can make stuff. And we learned how to make fires and cook our food and make clothes and shelter and even weapons. But maybe the most important thing that we learned was how to, and it wasn't the nicest, was how to annihilate just about all of our competition. And that included our closest relatives, the poor Neanderthals, that long ago, living a life of a simple life, an idyllic life, hunter-gatherers, living off the fruits of the forest, killing and eating whatever animal was crazy enough to get close to us. And in some ways, we were happier then than we are now. So, it was around about when the Neanderthals disappeared, that was about 30,000 years ago, might be related to the fact that we had just made a stupid mistake, or what might be a stupid mistake. We had learnt how to talk. Now, why that was a mistake was because we had such a good life. We'd done perfectly well for over 9.5 million years, living that idyllic life that I've just described to you. So why was learning to talk possibly such a big mistake? Well, the problem is, when we learn a new skill, we usually forget an old one. And a modern-day equivalent would be GPS. I mean, we all have GPS, and it's a wonderful invention, tells us exactly where we are, just about anywhere in the world. That's wonderful until it stops working, because sooner or later it does, and then we're lost in every sense of the word. Because just in a few short years, we have lost some of our innate skill of navigation, of knowing roughly where we are. And so it was with talk. When we learnt to talk, we lost our innate skill that we had of non-verbal communication. We were experts at reading body language, at interpreting our emotions, at what we call advanced pattern recognition techniques. We could go out and look up into the sky, and we knew, without knowing how, we knew that this was the right time to plant our crops. Because you could say we had some psychic skills at this time. But when we learned how to talk, the problem with talking is ambiguous. One word can have 10 different meanings depending on its context. So all of us, and particularly us men, we struggle to find the right words to describe our emotions and feelings. And at this time in our evolution, our attention span was already starting to get shorter. And as the centuries went by, it got shorter and shorter and shorter, and is now the shortest it's ever been. And some experts are very worried about that. So the consequence of that now is that our conversations have to get shorter. And there's only two ways we can do that. We can generalize stuff, and we can delete it. And this is what I'm doing now. I'm taking some quite complex ideas, and I'm making massive generalizations so I can fit it into a short period of time. And then whatever I've got left in my head, I'm just deleting whole bits out of it. And if that's not bad enough, I then do something, I distort it. I distort what I'm going to tell you. I'm not doing this consciously, but we all do it because every one of us in this room has our own view of what reality is or not. So with all this going on, is it so surprising that we struggle to separate fact from fiction? In fact, some recent research shows that when we go onto social media, we're more likely to believe a fake news story than we are a true story. So that's the world we're living in. Welcome to it. And we're actually developing slightly psychotic tendencies. So we've lost those innate skills of being psychic, and we've swapped it for being slightly psychotic. Well, is that bad? It may not be, you see, because it's all a spectrum. I mean, with being slightly psychotic, we've got greater imagination and greater creativity. And as a result, we build wonderful hospitals. And we now live longer than we ever have done before. We have more babies than ever before, if that's what you like doing. We have more possessions than we have ever before. But yet at the same time, we also have some of the highest rates of mental illness than ever before. So something's not going quite right here. Is there a possible answer? Well, there just might be. You see, what I propose is that on the one hand, we still got these psychic skills, they're just hiding somewhere. And on the other hand, we've got those slightly psychotic things that we've drifted into. But what about if we could mix them up? What about if somewhere in the middle there's a sweet spot where we find our peak performance? Because this is probably when we start to get lucky. And I've called this the psychotic state of mind. I've looked in dictionaries, and I can't see this word anywhere, but I know for sure, I won't be the first person ever to have said it, but it's the best word that I could think of at the time. So how can we find this get into this psychotic state of mind? I've got 3 suggestions for you to consider. They're quite easy for me to say, maybe a little harder to practice, but it's worth it. The first one is talk less. Yeah, and I don't mean don't stop talking to your friends and family and people at work. That won't make you very popular. So you can carry on with those discussions. But have a little quick look on social media, not today, maybe tomorrow, and just say, how much time am I putting into social media? Because it's a great thing, but what am I getting back? And the other thing that actually is the most serious bit is we've got this voice going on in our head the whole time. It's called internal dialogue, running commentary of our life. You've all got it? Yeah. Well, if this is saying, really positive things like, you're a wonderful person, you're doing a great job, everything you touch, you're great at. Well, it might make you a bit big-headed, but it's going to make you feel good. But talking to people, I find it's usually quite the opposite. There's this voice who's saying, you'll never amount to tuppence, you won't. I mean, you're so useless. You'll never be any good at singing, dancing, art, foreign languages, sport. And that is the kind of voice that is going to stifle your chances of getting lucky. So we have to find a way of quietening it down. Now, I've used this myself a lot. I had to, and I use it with people that I know. And it's to adopt, every time you hear this voice, adopt this little mantra. From this moment, in your own words, of course, from this moment forward, I'm only going to say good things about myself ever again. And if you do this for a month, it'll myelinate and it'll start to become automatic. But for the first few days, you're probably going to be saying it a lot. But if you stick with it, after a month, you will feel more positive about stuff. The people who are close to you will notice this more, and they'll wonder what you've been up to. Right. So just try it and see what happens. Number 2, listen more. You're going to learn more from listening to what other people have to say than what you're saying to yourself the whole time. And by listening more, also listen more to what's coming up from those deep, murky parts of your brain, because some of that is going to be intuition, and intuition can guide you. How can we do this? Well, through the centuries, people have found a good way to get a quiet mind is through exercises like mindfulness and meditation. So they're well worth considering. But if that doesn't sound like you, how about this? We can all do this. Find some time every day that you can devote to doing something creative, something that you love doing, something that makes time fly, because that's when you're in the zone. And that is when your intuition will allow itself to speak. The third thing is, this is the tough one, let go of ego. Be humble. Recognize that you're not here to fix all the problems of the world. Frankly, we're not here to even fix our own problems. Other things take care of that. How can you do that? Best suggestion, become an astronaut. In the unlikely event you don't want to do that, you see, the thing is, by being an astronaut, something happens when people go into outer space. They describe a similar thing. I look down and I remember all the problems I had on little planet Earth down there, and they suddenly don't feel that important. But the curious thing is, when these astronauts come back down to planet Earth, they've got the same problems, they've probably grown while they've been away, but yet they still feel differently. Now, if being an astronaut is not for you, go out into your garden on a nice night, go into the park, look up at the skies. You can't fail to be overwhelmed by the billions of stars and constellations and galaxies, and that can be a bit scary. It can make you feel a little bit alone. But you see, we're not alone, because we live on a planet with 8 billion people, and we're all connected to each other through our shared genes and chromosomes and DNA. Some people even have the original Neanderthal DNA, so they live on in a way. Carl Jung, the psychologist, he said that these instincts and things that we're all connected to, he said these form our archetypes of personality. And he talked about the collective unconscious. He didn't know anything about inheritance then. But this connectedness, it runs through all kinds of cultures. And if you can just accept that you are connected, you don't really need to do more than that. What it means to you is that never, ever underestimate the power of the unconscious mind. And number 2, it means you already have everything inside you that you need. You just need to find where it's hiding, and your intuition will guide you. And you will start to get lucky. And I wish you a huge amount of luck. I want you to be generous with it and share it with as many people as possible, because we all need more luck. The world needs more luck. And I hope we have the wisdom to use this wisely. Thank you so much.